Yeah, one thing about me is that Hi friend, welcome back. Today we are going to continue with our magazine harvest projects / tutorial. Today I'm gonna try and churn it all out. We have a list of the things that we are going to make with our harvest. So the first thing I'm going to make is a coin envelope. We're gonna be working with this gorgeous picture of an artichoke. I do my coin envelopes, is this landscape? Whatever it is, this is how I do it. But there's nothing stopping you from doing a long envelope if you so choose. It's the same method, just turning your page in the opposite direction. But we're gonna go with what I likes because this envelope is for me. And so what I do is I just take the edges of the envelope. You want to have an overlap between this side and this side of about 1/4 of an inch of an overlap. So it's hard to show you, but maybe this way you can see it. There is this little bit of an overlap here because that's where your adhesive is going to go, whether you're using a glue stick, double-sided tape, which is my preference for this project. Once you've got those two sides folded, then you just grab your bottom and the same, about 1/4 of an inch, I just fold it up, right? So now we've got all of these folds and we're going to cut. It's hard for you to see it with the glare, but if you're doing this with me, let me see if this one looks better. Then you should be able to hopefully see the lines that our folds have created. These lines are easy for me to see. So cutting, we're gonna start from the middle panel. The middle panel will not be cut, so that's why I like to start there. And I'm gonna cut at an angle only up to where all of the folds meet. So where all of the 4 corners of the folds meet, I'm just cutting up at an angle. And then I'm gonna cut this piece off. Me and straight lines don't get along, but we do our best. Magazine paper is pretty fragile, so you do want to be careful. And so we're gonna do the same thing on the other side. We're cutting at a diagonal from the middle panel and where all 4 corners meet. We're gonna try and be careful this time, Shanice. And this is actually a really pretty scrap, so don't mind me if I keep it. All right, so your paper should look like that with this single middle panel relatively intact. And then we're going to get our chosen adhesive. And if your chosen adhesive is a glue stick or wet glue, I find that wet glue will wrinkle, will cause the paper to wrinkle because magazine paper is pretty thin. And a glue stick, you know, me and glue sticks have like a love-hate relationship. I'm working on it. I've been testing out a lot of different glues and I intend to impart some of my discoveries at some point because it's been kind of like a point of contention with me, having used glue sticks and been disappointed by the permanence of the permanence. Okay, anyway, so I'm now putting some on the middle panel. I like to use a sharp edge, in this case a ruler, to tear off my double-sided tape. I get my double-sided tape from Dollar Tree. Every time I see it, I grab at least 2 packs and they work really well. I'm gonna peel these tape papers off, whatever you call them, and start getting ready to stick our sides together. The first thing that I wanna do is the middle part and cross it over and flatten that out. Make sure it's nice and stuck together. And once that's done, then I do this one. I have in the past just peeled all of the adhesives at the same time, and it can create trouble if for some reason this bottom panel decides to get in the way. And as I said, magazine paper is pretty fragile, so if that happens, chances are your project is gonna tear. Glue sticks. In this case, I find it kind of tricky to be precise with a glue stick. They can be a little sloppy. Maybe I'm the sloppy one. I don't know. Listen, comment down below if you and a glue stick go way back. I did say that this was going to be a coin envelope, but in fact, I ended up making a treat bag. But the coin envelopes and the treat bags are very similar, so worry not. We will make the coin envelope next. But as this turned out to be a treat bag, I'm going to take some of these, I don't know, I think they call them pinching scissors, who knows, but they make the little shape. But here is our cute little treat bag, and it is ready for you to share some goodies with your pen pals. Great as a pocket in your junk journal, and I mean, come on, how beautiful is this? Stop it. Okay, so let's do the coin envelope properly now. We're gonna use this girl. And I just want to clean up this edge here a little bit. It doesn't have to be perfect. I just don't want this rough edge. So yeah, a lot of these projects are really just practice, just with anything that you do for the first time. It just requires a little bit of patience and stick to it, you know? So this is great because we get to do this again. It's the same practice as the treat bag. So we're gonna fold over and maybe choose your center. And if it makes you more comfortable, you don't even have to commit to the fold yet until you find where you want to be the center. For example, me committing to this fold meant that her face sort of gets chopped up. I don't care about that. That doesn't matter to me. I think like the surprise of how the envelope ends up is part of the fun for me. But if I wanted to be more strategic, then I would probably fold more this way, right? So that her face could be in the middle, and then I would bring this all the way over here. But those are things that you can play around with depending on your personal preference. So now I've got that, and pretty much when you've got that, all you need to do is just pay attention as you're folding. You can see the bottom page still. And you just want to have that 1/4 of an inch overlap, and then you can fold it down. Now we've got our two sides, and we're going to fold our bottom up. Again, same as the treat bag. Only difference is that we're also going to fold the top. And for the top, you can decide if you want the top of your coin envelope to be bigger or smaller. I'm gonna go for a little bigger. So this is what it should look like when it's all folded. And just like the treat bag, we're going to open it up, pick the side where the lines are more visible to you. We're gonna do the exact same thing. Cut at an angle from the middle panel, and then cut off the side. Same thing for the other side, middle panel. Cut at an angle to meet all of those 4 corners, and then cut off the side. And you guessed it, same thing on this side. Middle panel. What the diagonal does is that it helps minimize the bulk created by the folds of the paper. Same thing, let's start adding our adhesive. And then we're going to add adhesive to only the bottom, because obviously the top is going to be the closure to our coin envelope. So it's very much the same process. If you can make a treat bag, you can make a coin envelope. If you can make a coin envelope, you can make a treat bag. Hope it goes without saying that while I'm calling them treat bags, by no means do I recommend that you put food in them. This is ink, and that does have chemicals. And I don't know about you, but I don't really feel too great about putting a plain cookie inside of a magazine envelope. So here's your envelope. Super cute. Now you have a perfectly functioning coin envelope. I probably wouldn't mail this Regular magazine pages, as I've stated numerous times at this point, are very fragile. But if you're using a cover or one of those thicker ad pages, then you could mail it. So for the mail envelope, what you do is that you're going to decide how deep you want your envelope to be. And I'm going to go this way. And by the way, I'm showing you how to create an envelope without using a envelope punch board. I do have one, and it is how I made my other envelopes. I don't think it's really necessary, so we're gonna forego that one today, and we're just gonna make a very basic envelope. So we've chosen our depth. So this is going to be the depth of my envelope, and this will be the top of my envelope. Lisa's face gets cut. That's okay. This is what happens when you don't measure. We're just gonna have body. It's okay. Again, these are the things that you figure out as you're making them, and you can decide if that's how you want them to be or not. Ginseng. A little sip of tea. At this point, you can also decide if you want your envelope to be a little bit smaller or a little bit bigger. I'm going to leave it like this because once you fold in the corners, it's going to get smaller by default. So we're gonna do the same process that we did for the other ones pretty much, about 1/4 of an inch in. And if you've got a bone folder of any kind, or the side of your scissor also works. Before my bone folder days, this did me very well. Doing the same thing to the other side. And it doesn't have to be perfect, but you do want to try and have your line, your fold line be as straight as you possibly can get it. It just makes things easier for you in the end. So now we've got this. For this envelope, we are going to cut these middle panels and these top ones, not the bottom. So not the part that you fold up. Those wings stay because that helps for the envelope to have a little bit more room. If you cut them, it'll work, but it will make it so that your adhesive is going to be in here, so you're going to have less envelope space. It'll make more sense when I show you. So we're still going to cut at a diagonal, but just toward the middle, and then cut this whole thing out. Okay, so now we're gonna turn these flaps in. So right now you're looking at the inside of my envelope. We're gonna take our adhesive and put it on that folded flap. Just make sure it's adhered really well, because that helps with the removal of the paper. So now that we've got that, we're just gonna fold. Might be helpful if I fold it this way. Fold the top of your envelope into the bottom. And let's burnish it really well so that the tape marries with the magazine paper. And for these corners, not necessary, but it certainly does help to, you know, make it more official envelope looking. It does help to round the corners. So if you have a corner rounder, do that, but you've got your envelope here now. Perfectly functional envelope. And as you can see, keeping that extra bit on the side allows for our envelope to have a really nice open mouth. So that's it for that one. Here's on the other side, you would put your address here. And if your next question is, well, how are we putting our address? Well, I mean, we all have our ways, but I tend to just take a label and write out the address here. And I tend to make my address super tiny. I mean, legible, obviously, but small. And then just have it on this corner. Really, the purpose of making the envelopes is not so that every single detail of the image is preserved and visible. It's to repurpose something and create something else with it. So yeah, love it. And it's really nice and sturdy. So I will be using this to send mail to someone. If you've got cereal boxes, oatmeal boxes, cookies, anything that comes in this type of thin cardboard, now is their time to shine. So we're gonna use this one, and I like to keep the plain side to the outside because that just by default gives you journaling space. But you can also, if for some reason you feel like your adhesive sticks better to this versus this glossy side, then that's totally fine because it happens to perfectly fit a big index card. To the salon. Just kidding. If you know the reference to that joke, then let me know. Let me see some of the things that I have in my file system, lest we forget. It. And we're gonna go with Lily. Now that I've got my focal point, I'm gonna see if I've got some background papers that can help me. Once I have fussy cut and sorted everything, my magazine harvests go to live in their permanent home, which are these plastic envelopes that I got from Amazon a long time ago. And this one is labeled background. So let's move this to the side and see what we can find. Yeah, one thing about me is that I always think that everything can be something amazing. So, you know, it could take me some time finding a background that I'm willing to sacrifice because I feel like it can be something really awesome. That's too dark. I want something to pop. Well, really, I don't want the background to necessarily pop. I want her to pop. So it can't be too competitive with her. It could be really classy. There it is. Now that I have finally, after 3 hours, just kidding, but it felt like it, figured out what my background is going to be for my focal point. This is where me and my glue stick get along. I'm not gonna lie. Let me just get a little background to protect my desk. And we're gonna go a little ham. This is not where you wanna be conservative with your glue. You want to make sure that everything sticks down really well, especially if you are not going to sew a border on it like I am. I wanted to keep this border and it got cut out. So I'm just going to piece it back together. I want it in there. I like it. I also love that it says life is real. I just like this whole lettering around the frame. And you know, I love lettering, so it has to stay. And thankfully this line is telling me where to cut so that I can match up with that line fairly well. Yep. Yep. And they will be none the wiser. Who are they? I'm they. No one else will notice these things but yourself. So I'm gonna round out these edges just so that it is not so obvious that I cut her out of something, so that it doesn't look like such an abrupt stop and it just looks like it's a puffy sleeve. What are you talking about? I think that looks more like it's just a puffy sleeve. Am I right? Let's not get too crazy, Shanice. But no, but for real, maybe that I like. I like it a lot. Okay, here goes nothing. Super generous with the glue stick, especially this part, because while I am likely to sew the border of that card, I almost never sew an image that does not have straight lines because I only know how to sew straight lines. That's where I'm at right now. That's where I'm at. Maybe one of these days I will learn how to sew curved lines. I actually want to take a sewing class just to, you know, learn some new things that could be beneficial. I'm gonna let that glue dry before I cut it, because even though these are my anything scissors, I don't want to deal with glue on there. In the meantime, I'm gonna look through my captions folder, back to the folders, and see if I have any fun captions that we can play around with here. I gotta take the kids to, well, I don't gotta, I get to take the kids to the arcade today. I'm trying to rephrase things like that because not everyone gets to wake up, friend. So I get to take the kids to the arcade today. It looks like it's gonna be like a rainy day, so arcade is a good thing to do. And we've been inside for a couple of days, but we gotta get outside. These bigger ones are better for art journal spreads, or just bigger projects. They're also great for decorating envelopes. Don't even get me started. Should we decorate an envelope? I want to get back to the things that bring me joy, my craft, the materials. It just doesn't seem like something she would say. Not that I'm looking for something that she would say, but it has to make sense, at least to me. And of course, there's words around her, so that kind of makes it even harder. So if we're gonna put something here, like, it needs to like stand out on its own, and it can stand out because it makes sense, or it can stand out because it's funny. That's the way that I think about it, at least. What's going on? Love that. Spice up your life, or what's going on? What say you? So it might help me to trim a bit just to see what the layout would look like. I think we'll do spice up. Your life. That could work. Or what's going on? No, literally, what's going on? It's taking up a crap ton of space, but who says that it can't also be on her, because that just marries everything together. I'm gonna go with it. What's going on? Because quite honestly, does anybody know what's going on? I genuinely don't know. Not asking for a friend, asking for me. For me? Okay, so we've got that, and this is probably dry already. We don't want any gunky scissor drama. So it's already looking like something. And I am gonna make this a little thinner. I hope you're making some stuff along with me, even if you're not making the same thing that I'm making, which is more than likely, because how could you have known that you were going to need to get harvesting materials ready today? Or maybe you saved this video until you did have your harvesting materials ready. And if that's the case, then you, my friend, are smart, and I like that. But if not, let me know what you're working on. In fact, either way, if you are harvesting or creating from your harvests with me, let me know. And if you're doing something different, let me know that too, because maybe whatever you're doing will inspire me to make something similar. Isn't that what we're all here for? The inspo. What's going on? Does anybody know? Anybody? Anybody? No? You neither? Yeah. Same, friend, same. I'm glad that I decided to not try and smush everything into that one corner and instead bring it onto her as well. Oh, I got glue on it. Let me see if I have a napkin. Son of a bee. I don't have anything to rub it off. I'm gonna use my shirt. One thing you don't wanna do is rub with your fingers. Even if you washed your hands, glue will find a way to make your skin oils turn black. Oh, and I rubbed it a bit too much and forgot that this is magazine paper and the ink will run. So you just wanna press, you don't wanna rub. What's going on? I'm into it. I do feel like it needs a little bit of something and I don't know what it is. This is pretty much done. Optional, as I mentioned, would be to also add an index card to the back. This makes this into then a journaling card, and that makes it really super simple for you to write in straight lines if you'd like to have that. But if you wanted to make this into a postcard, then this does not require another tutorial. It's literally the same thing, but then I like to take a ruler and try to get it straight. And then I just do like a little bit of a line in between, as they do. What's going on with my pen? Right? And it doesn't quite go all the way to the top. It can, but it doesn't. And give myself ample space for writing. And then here is where you would put your stamp. And here is where your address would go. And for that, I can add the lines. The recipient will just be so excited to receive something that is one of a kind and made just for them. They will not be caring about the straightness or the identicalness of your lines. They will not care. So that is it, and it's a perfectly mailable postcard. Another option is to cover these with either Mod Podge, although I've not tried necessarily Mod Podge on magazine paper that I can recall. If you're gonna try it with Mod Podge, I would try it on different paper, test it out, make sure that the ink doesn't run, because it might. You would hate to ruin your project. But another safer and useful thing to do is to just cover it with packing tape. What's next? To make these library card holders, this is what we're going to be using. Some library cards. I got this stash from Amazon. I've had them for a long time, so I'm just trying to use my stash. But you can also find printables on Etsy and even on Pinterest. For the backing for my library cards, I'm actually using some tan cardstock that I had in my stash, but you can also cut down these, are these manila folders? I think that's what they're called. You can buy a good amount of these at Dollar Tree. I think they're like 5 per pack. And then you just need your magazine page. A tape roller. You can also just use a glue stick or even wet glue if you use it sparingly. The only issue with wet glue is that it will cause some wrinkling, but it would be in the back of the library card, and in theory you would likely be sticking this library card to a surface, so no one will really see it. So if that doesn't bother you, and or if that's the only glue that you have, then go ahead and use it. That's totally fine. A pair of scissors, a paper cutter maybe if you have it. So with your magazine page, you can simply just fold it into quadrants, if that is correct. So we're gonna fold it hot dog and then hamburger, and that would leave you with 4 squares. That's the easiest way to do it, so that you can just eyeball it. You won't have to measure it. So all we're gonna do is use our library card backing and kind of use that to measure our folds. So what we want to do is get our sides folded. And so I'm just going to pull them up like that and take our other side and pull it up. Fold it so that it's nice and taut against the edge of the library card backing, but not too tight so as to make it difficult for the library card to slide in. So now we've got these two sides folded. And then I'm gonna take the card again and I'm gonna measure how tall I want my pocket to be. Do you want your library card to be more visible, less visible, or maybe it doesn't matter and you just let the chips fall where they may, which is pretty much how I've been navigating this. I like this side better than the other, so I'm just gonna turn my folds. If your magazine image is directional, you're gonna wanna make sure that the top is actually the top and the bottom is actually the bottom. And so this is the top of my page. So I'm going to fold this. And this fold is just to give some security to the top of the pocket right here, because magazine paper is pretty fragile, it's pretty thin. And so you don't want this part to be more likely to tear because it's weak. Now, I'm going to use the backing again to measure. And now that I know the height of my pocket, I'm going to take advantage and fold this way just for the measurement, because it actually needs to be folded this way. Now, to not have that much excess paper in the back, you can trim any excess paper from the bottom, which I will do. And then I'm gonna open these folds so that hopefully the glare is not too bad and you can see where the corners of the folds meet. And that's where you're going to cut on a diagonal. Right in the center where all those corners meet, we're gonna cut on a diagonal. Only on the bottom flap, cut on a diagonal. I'm not cutting the top of this because this is, again, going to be that fold that's protecting the pocket from any damage. Now we put our library card back in, and you take whatever adhesive you're choosing. I'm using my new little Dollar Tree adhesive, and we're going along all 3 sides of these flaps. And we're just gonna make sure that we're like centered okay. It doesn't really matter, I don't think, whether you do the lower flap or the sides first. I just tend to always do the lower one first because I'm a creature of habit. Okay, and now that is adhered and we've got our pocket. Slides in pretty nicely. Okay, so for the Polaroid, you're going to need some cardstock. You could also use like scrapbooking paper, pattern paper. I've done that before. I don't have one near me that I can show you, but it also looks really adorable. So this is a great project for your scraps. But for just the sake of this demo, I'm just going to use some cardstock, and you can make a Polaroid-like card of any measurement that's of your preference. I'm gonna try and stick to the classic member, the classic member, wow, twice. I'm gonna stick to the classic measurements of a Polaroid, and so I'm gonna use my paper cutter because me and straight lines don't get along, and I wanna do 4.5 by 3.5. And I believe that those are the measurements. I just got a new blade, and tell me that's not the most satisfying. I'm gonna make the Polaroid of Joe and Adrian, but I just wanted to show you why I often keep body parts and shoes and stuff, because I just feel like this also tells a story. And to me, it's really fun to make up the stories behind sort of obscure images, is that right? So yeah, perfect. Let's get the glue on. And that is it. That is done. What I love about the Polaroids is that by default, they have a spot for either a caption or journaling or stickers or mark making. Like, how great would this be with a bunch of mark making around it? Absolutely. And of course, journaling space in the back. I'm not going to do this one because you've already seen it. Ah, Polaroid background. Okay, so we are making one more Polaroid. That's fine. Ever get so organized that you don't remember where you put things? Because that's what's happening right now. I just organized all of my stuff, and I gave things new homes because you may have heard from a previous video, I told a story about how during COVID, I had to move my craft space from my bedroom into just off of my living room. And just recently, I moved my stuff back in. Okay, so we've got our background. And when I moved my stuff back in, my husband convinced me to put the drawers, take it out from underneath my desk and put it off to the side next to my cabinet so that my printer could be on top of it. And, you know, and I was saying to him, like, I don't think that's gonna work for me because everything that's in that drawer, like, I need it, like, easy access to, like my pens, my paper clips, literally all the things that you need, you know, at an arm's length, you know, within an arm's reach, or whatever the heck the phrase is. But you know, he was like, yeah, you'll get used to it, it won't matter, like, it's fine. And I'm like, no, I don't think so. But, you know, but I'm like, okay, let me think outside of the box, because I will say that of the two of us, he is like the most visual when it comes to decorating. I like creativity and I love being creative, but decorating, it just has never been a thing that I've cared about. So usually the way it works here is that I will just say what I like, and then he uses his eye for home design or whatever and sorts it out. So knowing that, I was like, okay, well, it must be, you know, let me just go with it. Let me just trust. But yeah, no, I was right. That did not work for me. And I just was so frustrated all the time. Anytime I needed to get stuff, I had to get up from the desk instead of just reaching under me. It didn't work. So I ended up switching everything back and reorganizing again. And now I don't know where my Polaroid or my postcard template are. Aren't you glad you got to hear that whole dumb story? An option is to use my own drawings, but I also have a folder of small people. Immediately, I noticed this guy, and that could be a good Polaroid. Ooh, I'm using that guy because I want to put a caption. You're the winner. Visual noise really gets to me, and so I'm constantly organizing and reorganizing, and what happens then is that I lose things. For a caption, I'm gonna go into my DIY captions, and right on top was "you need to calm down," and that is always smart advice. Overthinking like it's my job. People still leave voicemails? That's a great question. Comment down below if you still leave voicemails. I feel like someone like him would say respectfully, wouldn't he? He looks like a gentleman who would say respectfully, nobody asked you. But do people still leave voicemails is what I'm gonna go, because I like the irony of it all. Wherever this image came from, it's giving pre-voicemail. So for him to be asking that, I think is funny. So do we go, do people still and then leave voicemails. Is that enough? Just 2 pieces? Yeah, I like it. I could have like cut down the white space a little more, but I don't care. I tend to cut down the white space when I feel like I don't want it to compete with a background, or when the white space is just too much. But this background is pretty plain, and so I think it works. And I decided to put them, you know, just kind of off center and a little wonky, just for funsies. Yeah, so this one kind of, I messed up the angles of it, but the demo is just for you to kind of see the thought process behind it. And I still love him, and I think that when I sew it, all will be well. For the paper dolls, I had pointed out these images during the magazine harvest. And so of course, I've cut them out, and they on their own would be just fine as paper dolls. But what would be the fun in that? Crikey, I forgot to hit record. What I'm doing right now is to cut out the original faces so that I can put different faces on top. And I think they're more enjoyable to me, and really your project is all about what is more enjoyable to you. And I think they're more enjoyable to me if they have a different face on them. For the record, I've not really done this before. Maybe it doesn't make sense for her chin to be on her neck, but I think also like we could just roll with that. I love that. Look how joyful she looks. I'm gonna use some wet glue. This is, I think it's called alligator glue, crocodile glue, one of those. And I'm just gonna use a tiny bit to attach. Yeah, I mean, we typically don't have our chins to our chest, but as paper dolls go, I feel like the rules don't really apply, do they? And I want to do this because it's a small space, and this crocodile glue, I'm gonna just marry both names, is a very strong adhesive, and a little bit goes a long way. So I'm not super worried about any paper warping because I'm using just a tiny bit, very strategically. As far as the remaining parts of the paper doll and the fussy cutting that remains to be done, I reserve that to the end, because if I fussy cut all of these little parts, like her legs and her arms, that's gonna make them extra fragile to ripping when I store them in the envelopes. So when it's super intricate fussy cutting areas, I tend to leave those until I'm going to actually use them in a project, so that I don't risk damaging those tiny little very important pieces. It does look like the paper does want to warp a bit, so I'm just pressing this down. You can also put it in between the pages of a heavy book and have them dry really flat, and that will help with that. But again, these are collage pieces. I'm not really going too crazy about that. So now we've got like these fun random paper dolls, which I think I will go on and make a ton more later. What's next? An affirmation card. So we're back to our cereal box cut aparts, and this is in the size of an ATC. Your affirmation card could be as big or as small as you would like for it to be. I'm going to find something to tape in the background. And so these are some of the scraps that came from the black and white Polaroids with Joe Jonas and that girl. I just want to cut off as much of the white space as possible, because that is sort of useless as a background. This is like an easy background to make. It's kind of like just using book pages. The only thing I would say is that when you're using words from a magazine or really words from anywhere, you just want to make sure that the topic is not offensive or, I guess, not suitable for work type stuff. You know what I'm saying? So we've got, oh, this can do this whole side. And potentially I can then take a scrap that has like more color and then do like half and half. I'm gonna do that. This is not like the brightest of colors, but it's still gonna be able to offer some contrast to the black and white of the words. So that's what we're gonna do. And let's stick this down. I don't really do a lot of tutorials on this channel because oftentimes I make things just as I'm in a state of flow. You can't create a state of flow. You can't be like, turn on the camera and flow. It just doesn't work that way. And so a lot of times the things that I make, they really just happen off camera because that's when I'm more likely to achieve flow state when I'm making for myself. I'm not making for views and likes. I'm making it because I want to make it. So then what ends up happening is that when I'm in flow state, I make a ton, right? And that's fine. That's not a problem. Make a ton of stuff, awesome. But by the time I'm done making a ton, it's like when you have like a favorite food, right? And you overeat it. And then when you overeat it, you don't really want to have that food for some time. So my point is, when I enter flow state, I tend to make a lot of that one thing that I'm really enjoying. So the thought of me turning on the camera to then film a tutorial after I've made like 30 of something is like unthinkable for me. So I'm working on it. All right, so we've got a background, which I'm really cool with. And we just need to, you know, find like a focal something or other to stand out in that background and give us something to create an affirmation with. I always love this girl. I've used her many times. I printed that image somewhere from Pinterest, I think. Just looking in my envelope again. I like her. We're gonna go with her. So now that I've got my focal point, she kind of looks like Rihanna a little bit. I'm just gonna decide where, you know, where do you want your focal point? Do you want it off to the side? Do you want it centered in the middle? I tend to like to put mine off center, but if you wanted to put it in the center, that would be really cool too, and it would give you some space for some words there if you wanted to. So I'm gonna go with that. I'm gonna go against my own grain today. And now we can decide if we want to, you can add a caption or something that you've printed or purchased, or you can handwrite it. I'm gonna look through my stuff and then, respectfully, nobody asked you. This is not my affirmation badge, clearly. Hold on a second. The creative adult is the child who survived. It's not really an affirmation as much as a statement, but I do like it. I'm worthy of a beautiful life. I'm willing to leave my comfort zone. Clap for others while you wait your turn. I'm abundant with self-love. I'm strong mind, body, and spirit. I'm proud of myself. I have everything I need to succeed. Examine what you tolerate. Love you, mean it, bye. I say that a lot. Love you, mean it, bye. I also kind of take inspiration from their expressions. So she's looking really serious and pensive. I may not have a caption that kind of goes with that vibe, and I will have to write it, but we'll see. I am unaffected by the judgment of others. I think that statement of affirmation is as strong as her body language, so that could work. Again, I could look through those forever. I'm gonna narrow it down to these two. I'm gonna go with I'm unaffected by the judgment of others. I feel like that really resonates with her body language. Literally cutting it close of others. But we make the rules. If I really wanted to go over her and do it like that, I could. Yeah, I feel like it marries everything together to have it overlap on top of her a little bit. So I'm gonna go with that. Should I trim some of the white space? I feel like sometimes the white space, I think, competes with the size of the font. I'm not sure if that makes sense to anyone else, but I guess I try and keep a white space ratio that I think makes sense with the font. Okay. And since I've trimmed them down to where they're kind of tricky to hold on to, I'm going to use my tweezer, which a tweezer is always a good idea for small pieces of ephemera or paper that you'll be using in your projects. Just a tweezer, you know, you can just use the tiniest part of the point and it keeps your fingers out of the way. It makes it so that you're not spreading a bunch of glue everywhere. It allows you to see, well, I am spreading a bunch of glue everywhere, ironically, but I'm not touching it and it will dry clear, so that's okay. But it makes it so that you can see exactly where you're placing things because you don't have, you know, your thumbs or your fingers blocking your view. Okay, so we've got our affirmation card donezo. And what I like to do with affirmation cards is to add a little bit of interest to it. And one of my favorite things to do is to add like what I perceive to be an aura. I like her. And then of course I will probably sew around the border, but totally not necessary. All right, last thing that we have to do is a masterboard. I've seen a number of people using old phone books as the backing to masterboards, and I think that is such a smart idea. I haven't seen a phone book in ages. The reason why they use the phone book is because the paper is so thin that it doesn't make the end result so super thick from layering different papers on it that you can still cut it and even use a die cutting machine with it. But magazine paper is also thin and fragile, and so those pages that are not necessarily focal points or they're not maybe useful to you as envelopes or whatever, those pages have many purposes, and one of them is a great background for collaging. Again, it does not add too much bulk because the paper is thin, and it allows you to easily cut and paste and create on top of other pages like in your junk journal and what have you. So now I've got my folder that has the negatives. So here is my negatives folder. And that just means that a lot of the negative space that I have kept from fussy cutting other things, I like to keep them because I find that the shapes that they make are also interesting, and I use them to create on a masterboard. So let's see if we can do one such thing. So you can, you know, create a master board with pretty much any shapes or images that you have. But I find that the images that actually have a good shape to them, like I like this one better than that one. They're really fun to play with. So usually as I start out, I just start placing things and seeing, you know, how they feel to me, and then go from there. I love all of these colors that are coming from what clearly was the same page. So maybe I keep them together, I don't know. But I love the ones that have shapes like this because to me it looks like painted shapes. So we just keep going, just keep looking through our stash and keep adding anything that is of interest. This looks like it might have been like a piece of a cardigan. I think I want to keep this one like bright, so I'm gonna take away that greenery. I can do another one with greenery some other time, not today. It's cool to overlap as well, as you would with paint. So I like to think about these pieces as if I were painting on these pages. I'm not like a painter necessarily, but I do like to just throw around color for funsies. And this is like the easiest way to throw around color, and it affects nothing. And I'm not even committing to anything yet because I'm just laying papers on top of each other and seeing how they marry. And so far, I'm really liking it. And again, like the pieces that already have shapes to them, they're my favorite ones to use because you have to work with it. It becomes like figuring out a puzzle piece, and you have to work with what the shape is already doing. And I do have a number of these like straight edged scraps, and I will use them. I'm looking forward to using that one specifically. But you know, you use them differently because they're gonna be a little bit more methodical, a little bit more clean looking. And that's just not what I'm trying to do today, so I'm not going to be using straight edges today. I never did like this lady, but for the collage, she might work. There's one thing that I try to make sure to cover, and that is the borders where the words end. I don't really like that to be visible. As much as possible, I try to cover the borders. I'm gonna leave it like that and start gluing things down and see what we end up with. Some people take a picture of their collage before they start gluing things down so that they can keep it exactly as they have it. I'm filming, so I'm not going to take off my phone from the stand so that I can do that. So we'll just see what happens, friend. Sometimes I end up with something that's exactly like what I set out, and sometimes I end up with something different, and we survive. So let me just move this over and off my gluing surface if I can. Oh, that's great, it's stuck. Cool, so basically it's not going to end up anything like what I set out to do. That's okay for me, that's okay. Okay, so I'm just gonna, things that happen. Did say that it was fragile paper. did say that. If you have some collaging tips that you'd like to impart on us, please do. I would love to hear it, because collaging is not something that I have done tons of. It just happens to be something that I'm currently enjoying. But I don't think that I necessarily have a system that is potentially the best way to go about it. So, and maybe there is no best way. There's just your way. So for now, this is the best way for me to go about it. Okay? Fight me. It always sounds like I'm looking for fights. I've never had a fight in my life, friend. Literally never had a single fight in my life. I just like to say fight me. I like to sound combative. I'm possibly one of the most peaceful people that you'll meet. I like to lead with love. I like to think the best about a person or a situation before thinking the worst. Often that means that, you know, we can be disappointed because we gave people or things the benefit of the doubt, and they were undeserving. But I'd rather do that than think the worst, because life has shown me that there's lots of good in the world, and so I'd like to focus on that. Because how sad would it be if we just focused on negativity all the time? Ick. But don't get on my bad side. I don't like being mean, but I will. Okay, I feel like this is enough for me, and there is some white space, but I do plan on cutting this and creating journaling cards from them or something or other. The only other thing that I would probably do is to just go around and clean up the edges. That's something that you could probably do after you use the masterboard for whatever project you want to use it for. But some of these edges are sticking out extra. And I have this perfect border here that is going to help me cut into a straight line, so I'm going to take advantage of it. And then my masterboard is done. I'm gonna scan this so that I get to use this masterboard over and over and over again. All right, friends, so I've scanned my masterboard, and so now I will be able to use this and then continue to still use the masterboard over and over again. This is what it looks like once it is printed. I have to figure out my settings so that it could stop printing with this border. I don't like learning new things, friends. It's ironic, right? Because here I am teaching you stuff. Anyway, it looks really great. I love it, and I'm excited to have this so that I can use it over and over again because it's saved on my computer. And what I also did for funsies is print it multiple times on a sheet so that I can cut these out, and they would make the most amazing journaling cards. I'm gonna cut it out and show you what it looks like. Anyway, how awesome are these? Stop playing with me. Stop it right now. All from negative space from your magazine harvesting. So let's see everything that we made before I say goodbye. We're back at our list, and the last thing was the masterboard, arguably the most fun one. You tell me which one of these ideas were your favorite. We've got our coin envelope. We've got our treat bag, our mailing envelope, our journaling card, which would be like that, / postcard, our Polaroid, regular Polaroid, and we have our layered Polaroid. We have our wonky paper dolls. Hold on, the caffeine is catching up with me and my hands are starting to tremble. At least the caffeine caught up with me after I'm done fussy cutting. So we've got our paper dolls, wonky and lovely. And we've got our affirmation card. And last, but of course not least, our master board, which made way for this awesome printable that we get to use over and over again. Also made way for this amazing journaling card. What? I think I love this the most. And let us not forget the library card holders. Anyway, friend, I hope that you enjoyed this video. I hope that you got tons of ideas for ways that you can use your magazine harvests. And if you've never harvested, I hope that this inspired you to try it for the first time. I'll leave you there, friend. I really look forward to all of your feedback. If any of these ideas become something that you create, I would love it if you could tag me. Also, if you share it with other people, do feel free and add the link to this series so that they can benefit from other ideas as well. And if any of these ideas sparked inspiration for your own ideas of something different, let me know. I want to make your ideas too. Until next time, thanks so much for being here. Bye. Oh my God. Big butts equal cannot lie. I mean, I turned 48, but in my brain, I'm 19 forever. We've been here for a long time. You deserve a biscuit. One time I ate a crap ton of donuts. I used to make these donuts when I was a teenager using the Pillsbury biscuit dough, and you just take like a bottle cap, like a Pepsi bottle cap, something like that, and you use that as the thing to cut out the middles to make the donut holes, and then you fry them and then you put powdered sugar on them and woohoo, a donut, right? I don't know, when I was 16 or so, I made a crap ton of those donuts. No one was home. I ate all of them by myself, and I have not had a single one ever since then. I just turned 48 years old this week, and I have not had a single Pillsbury DIY donut. What are you? What's your name? Come on, perimenopause. We can do this. Does it start with an A? Pause for the struggle. Artichoke. Yeah. The key to perimenopause is patience, is what I'm telling myself. Allow my brain to catch up. Woosah. Okay. You know, me and glue sticks have like a love-hate relationship. Do you know what I'm saying? I'm not sure why I have one flip-flop on and one flip-flop off. Guys, I'm working with a new... Wait, I didn't even say hello. Ay, ay, ay. Bad Bunny's chair is always a good one. Because I only know how to sew straight lines. What's next? So we're learning together. Not too many, please.
I will, please.
Don't forget, I need to be able to trust you.
Oh, young Sheldon.
Oh no! She's not young Sheldon. Love you, mean it, bye.